I'll call the meeting to order. If we all would stand and face the flag, stand with your heart for the pledge of allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sonia, will you take the roll call, please?
Yep, Commissioner Shaw.
Here.
Commissioner Wire,
Here.
Commissioner Corbin,
Here.
Commissioner Digital,
Here.
Mayor Denner.
Here. We have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any comments or questions? Not hearing any, seeing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carried. Down into appearances acknowledgement. Item number 1. Acknowledge Community Center Governing Board recommendation to advertise for the Community Center Director. I have a motion and a second on that.
So you want us to acknowledge the community center's board's recommendation? Just acknowledging that they are moving forward with hiring a community center director. Since that board and the 4-person board have the authority to hire it, but it's still a city employee, they want to make sure that the city commission is aware of the proceedings. So moved.
Second.
Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. I have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have nothing under unfinished business. We'll move down into the new business. Item number 1. Sonia, do you want to bring us up to speed on the first reading ordinance number 1640, 2022 appropriations?
You guys had a chance to look at the one that came out earlier today and the stuff that I uploaded on Friday. So this ordinance that you have in front of you is slightly different than the one you received earlier today. The 201 fund I did not have on there. We have rolled the Park and Rec into the general fund in 2022. In discussion with the Department of Legislative Audit, they just wanted to show that those transactions. That $900 that it's showing transferring out of there, that's what I project will be in there at year end. It might be slightly above or below that. You will have a resolution in January with that exact amount, transferring it from one to the other. Those funds actually go back into, I have the reserve set up in those 101 accounts. So the funds that were in reserve, they'll go into reserve in 101 with parks labeled in front of them. And then the cash that was in there will just go into the general cash fund. So that's a difference from the one that you looked at earlier today. And then the other item is at the very end, which is a total appropriation, which is the total outgoing for the general fund and special revenue funds. And then the incoming is section 2 when you're looking at the page. And then enterprise funds do not require all the detail that government funds do because they're not tax dollars, they're for utilities. We still show the revenue and reserves and everything used. It's just in a much more condensed version. Looking through the budget, we'll have approximately between water sewer projects, the city hall projects, the creek mitigation project, we have right at about 25 million in projects for next year. That's a pretty big year. We'll be extremely busy. I did include it in your packet, which after you finish looking at the budget, there's a contract for the FEMA portion. That's a 0% loan that's included in that project. And then once you decide for sure what you want to do budget wise, I did receive a preliminary resolution from Colliers as well for the sales tax bond that would cover the streets and the city hall portion of that. In summary, if you look in section 2, we would be applying approximately 1.2 million in cash towards the budget. Those are for general fund and special fund items. The applied cash on the utility side is, which I guess I didn't put a totals column in there, but you're looking at about 1.4 million there. And then reserves applied there as well. That will, with all the projects that are going on, that will bring your cash levels and your reserve levels down in those utility funds. We are anticipating money from SRF to come through and pick up a lot of the areas where we're applying cash and reserves, but we have to budget as if we're not going to have that. So that's what we've done there.
What did you anticipate for sales tax growth in the budget?
I have 1.8 million, so 3.6 between first and second set. That's pretty conservative. We were at 1.76, I think, for last year's budget, maybe 40,000. I think it'll probably be higher than that, but with run-ins in there, I know they've been busy in it. And where our numbers have come at so far this year, we're ahead of where we projected.
Yeah, I like the idea of budgeting that conservative way. But if we do a little bit better, it's just,
Ooh.
yes, exactly.
You mentioned the 25 million in projects. What was, do you know what 2021 was by chance?
Not right off the top of my head. The RD portion of it, I believe, was around 9. Streets were 2.4. Storm 2.1. Water 7. Sorry, nope. Let's go back up a second. Water was 4, so over 4 million. Oh, sorry, 4.6 million. And sewer for last year. Sorry, really large spreadsheet. 1.5. And then your projects for this year, like I said, they include the city hall, they include the FEMA project. There's another 3.5 million, that's that 9th and Union project. And then the rest of the RD, which is just under 11.
FEMA is all reimbursable. from us, but-
So we have 1.2 million that we're paying. And then we have an interim financing that's 3.6 million. And then FEMA will completely pay that interim financing off. That's at 0% interest. And then we will get a 10% reimbursement, which is of that, of the 1.2 million, we'll get about 750,000 from them.
What you budgeted as we're getting none of that.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, because that won't come in until after that project is complete, and that might be a couple of years down the road, so we have to cash flow it till then.
Brad, was 1A, if I remember right, phase 1A, we paid for the storm and
We did sanitary storm and street.
we paid for that upfront.
Yes. That was cash out of pocket.
Right, that was cash out. So this that we budgeted for this year, was that just 1B?
So what I did was I had them send me everything that they project to finish, so there's some various phases within there. But they sent me everything that they have projected would not be done by year end, and that's what's budgeted for 2023. The majority,
Yeah, there'll probably be just a little tail end of 1A as far as like seeding, fertilizing, some of those things and to finish up. And then the rest of it'll be half of 1B. And then all the paving, and then all of the paving and everything on phase 2 plus the pipe work. So, or, you know, they're in the water tower, they're all in there. You can't, it's because they covered parts of different phases and not completed
Right.
others. It's hard to get there's no real clear line of where you can say this is exactly where they're at.
It's my understanding they're broken to phases for bidding, but now frankly, they're all going on at the same time.
Yes, for bidding and bonding purposes.
But I just wanted to make clear, 1A, we paid for the streets, the sewer, and the storm
Yes,
out of cash, so we
Yes.
did not get any loan or grants for those.
that all came out of pocket.
The only thing was the water.
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing, the caveat to that would be if it was sewer lining on those streets, that was covered under the RD project, but it's gonna happen later.
Right. I got one other question, Brad, you could probably help me on the sewer capital outlay machine and auto equipment. We have in here, it says sewer camera truck, 200,000 or 65,000 for trailer. What's,
There's different options. The option that we put in the budget was a $200,000 truck, step van truck.
I have a question on that part of it. What's the reason we need a sewer camera when we have hydroplane?
We need to do the entire city. It's virtually never, nothing was virtually videotaped before my arrival, where we did a bunch of it on the RD project. And then we need to do the whole city, starting at the treatment plant, working our way up, and we have to do the whole city. There's times we've had to hire other people because HydroClean's not available. And so it's one of the things that if you have an emergency, it's nice to have. It's also gonna be something that as we go along, we'll go into our sewers, look at our stuff and our schedule. And that'll help a little bit too, because when HydroClean comes to do it, we have to be available to jet them, do all the stuff on their schedule. And so there's part of that that kind of disrupts the normal flow of business for us. But we just got so much to do. I mean, we gotta do, 40 miles of televising. And it's gonna take probably 4 years to get that all done. with the, going through it with our staff at times that they can get available. So that's something we're gonna do a lot of miles on that machine. And so the idea was to purchase one of our own and have it, virtually every community our size has their own televising setup, and they use it religiously. We had one in Fort Perry, we use it all the time. Acceptance of new pipe and all that stuff, you go and do that, like the housing development, you got put in, you go and accept all that, you televise it. And, you flood it, so you can find all the low spots, you go and televise it and look at it. So it's something that, without that, then every time we want to do something like that, we have to hire somebody in, bring them in, mobilize them in or whatever. So it's, as we start growing and start doing more of these types of things, and we're looking at doing basically a mile of street, water, and whatever sewer needs to be done a year coming up here. And we're gonna be using the thing on a regular basis. I mean, just constant. Yeah, we can hire stuff out, we can hire everything out, but, at some point, when you look at 40 some miles of televising, it starts to come to where we need to have our own equipment.
Brad, do you have any estimates on what hiring out all those miles of televising would cost?
I haven't had a chance to go, look at what, and right now it's whether you can get it. I know we had to hire Brookings to come down and look at Washington because nobody else was available. And they came down and they charged us trip fees and everything, so I think that one was probably somewhere around $800 that we got, what they're charging us for that. Just come down and look at one little thing, because by the time you mobilize out, pay the truck fee, pay the people, it adds up.
My next question would be, what constitutes an emergency for a camera?
But if somebody's got sewer that's plugged up, you can't figure out if it's, at the, we jet it, but it still isn't coming free, then you run the camera up and you go up and you look at it and see where, if it's plugged, if you can see where it's plugged on the outlet, or,
Well, if you can't get the jet through it, it's plugged.
no, you can, when you get the jet through, but it doesn't come clean as far as like the service line. There was one we had on, they said, well, they always say it's at your line, it's at your line, it's at your line. You go up there, you drive up with the camera, you go up and look and say it's clear all the way up the main, it's clear as far as you can see up the service line. It's not on our end of the deal, because it gets into a finger point match, and then typically we end up digging it up and then find out that it's not on our part of the line. But that's, it helps to delineate whose responsibility and, issues are. So.
Well, I beg to differ that cities our size, because I talked to two of them today and they said they wish they would have never seen that sewer camera. They said, number one, they don't have the manpower to do it. Number two, cameras get caught. One city said, every time we use it, the camera gets caught. Every time we dig the street up. He said, we have a camera. He said, we don't use it, we hire it done. He said, that's the biggest waste of money that you can find. He said, it's cheaper to hire somebody to do it. He said, first of all, he said, that we don't have the expertise, we don't have the manpower. He said, it's a poor investment.
What cities did you talk to?
One city said I could use her name, the other city said, don't get me in the middle of this mess, but Vermillion said, Fred at Vermillion said, don't buy one.
Do they have a jetter?
Pardon me?
Do they have a jetter truck?
I can't answer that.
Yeah.
I would assume so with a town of 11,000. I mean, the camera gets stuck with an independent contractor. He's the guy that's paying for tearing the street up. He's paying for fixing it back up. And do we have enough people to run this? Or are we gonna take people off of the sewer and water off of another project so we can run the camera? And I'm not bad mouthing the sewer and water people. No way, no shape, no form at all. I'm just saying, it all sounds great, grand and glorious until you start using it.
Are you gonna have to hire extra help? I know a couple of years ago, you had a hard time getting guys to come to work for you. So, what's that gonna consist of?
Generally, it takes two people to run the machine. It's not too much of an issue. It's usually the same two people that run the back truck. We'd like to say, we had one in Fort Pierre, we ran it, had a back truck, had a camera truck in their van, and we ran them, all the time on a lot of different projects. But there are small through there. So I think we can probably come up with manpower to do it. It's about prioritization. What do you need to get done? But right now, we're completely blind on our sewer system. Have absolutely no idea what's wrong with it, no idea where the bad parts are, no idea where to focus our monies. That's not a good place to be. We have to do something.
We move on now. I mean, I think we beat this dead horse. In my opinion. We aren't even purchasing it at the point, it's just in the budget. I fully support where you guys are at, but it's time for us to continue. In my opinion.
Have a motion for the first reading ordinance number 1640, 2022 appropriations.
So moved.
Second. Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing or seeing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carried. Item number 2. Authorize, you want to fill us in on this? Authorize the mayor to sign 2019 infrastructure disaster recovery program agreement, South Dakota Department of Public Safety.
Yeah, this is just that FEMA portion. This is the federal portion of it. They are, when FEMA came out and said they would fund these, or that they would approve these projects, the state came out and said, let's help you do it. And they are providing zero interest financing for the 75% that's backed by FEMA. We will take it out when we start the project, and then when we receive our funds from FEMA, it goes directly back to them.
Thank you.
You said 0%, right?
Yes, so if we had borrowed more, meaning if we wanted to borrow our portion of it, then they would have charged us interest on that, but just borrowing the part that's backed by FEMA is at 0%.
I just see that in this one, that exhibit B, it says 2% annually, but I don't know what that means.
Well, we talk about the infrastructure disaster recovery program.
Yes.
When I look in sub D, I see the city of Madison should be obligated to reimburse the state at an annual interest rate of 0%.
Yeah.
Are we looking at two different places? Yeah, elsewhere on the end of exhibit B, it has saying no note on that. We should probably get some clarification on that done.
I would recommend that you table that, and I will confirm with him. What the gentleman told me on the phone was 0, but I would.
This doesn't happen very often.
There's no rush to approve it, so we can get that clarified. We can bring it back next week.
You need a motion?
We have to table.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table the loan disaster recovery interest rate.
I'll second.
Any further comments, discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Public comments on. Okay, announcements. Hearing any, do I have a motion to go in exec at 5:59?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
What are we under for executive session?
Contract.
Contract.